Time does not heal. Time is a teacher. Andrea was 27 years old. She had that love story where she fell in love. Of course, mom and dad helped her to have the best wedding ever. And she was beautiful, happy. She had a 2-year-old little boy, and she was pregnant with her second baby. Time teaches us how to live with grief. Time teaches us, and we learn how not to let grief have the power. You have the power, and the power is within. And I
Yeah.
have more power within me than I ever thought I had.
Dear friends, welcome to Impromptu Stories. Today I'm honored to introduce you to Linda, a mother whose life changed forever 13 years ago when she lost her daughter Andrea in a tragic car accident. It's a kind of heartbreak that no parent should ever have to face. Over the years, Linda has found a way to carry her pain and turn it into something meaningful. She's written a deeply personal memoir about her journey through grief. She's also brought her daughter Andrea's voice back to life by publishing a children's book, something her daughter Andrea originally created as a high school project. This episode isn't just about loss, it's about love that never fades, memories that still speak, and the quiet strength of a mother who keeps her daughter's light shining. Let's walk gently into Linda's story together. This is my first time recording online, so thank you so much. This is my, I was gonna do it, but I just wasn't prepared yet. I wasn't sure how to do it.
Yeah.
So today it's gonna be our very first online recording, which is I'm really excited about this. It's gonna be loud because I have a couple more people who want to do with me, but I'm not sure how.
So I'm the guinea pig.
Pardon?
I'm
Yes.
the test guinea pig.
I think so. Linda, welcome to Impromptu Stories. I want to say by saying that I'm really deeply grateful to have you here today. And this space is all about honoring real stories, stories that carry love, loss, resilience, and hope. And yours is all of that and even more. So I know this is not very easy conversation, but it's such an important one because we want to speak about Andrea. We want to share your story. We want to speak to other people who are going through losses of their children, and just about grief and the way you've carried this, her light, your daughter's light forward in this world. And yeah, your journey, your writing. So we will talk about all of that. So it just, I think it helps to create really to honor your daughter first of all, and keep her memory alive, right? Her voice alive, and also it's already touching so many hearts. So today I'm really happy to hear and listen to your story more and learn more and honor both of you, both of you. So thank you so much for being with us, Linda, today.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, can you please take us back to who Andrea was? Like, how, what kind of light did she bring into your life and to those around her?
Well, I have been married for 28 years, and we have a blended family of 5 children. My 2 biological and my other 3 children. My biological children, Andrea was the baby. She was the youngest, and she has a sister who's 6 years older. So Andrea was 27 years old. She was, I would say, at the prime of her life. You know, she had that love story where she fell in love. Of course, mom and dad helped her to have the best wedding ever, and she was beautiful, happy, and that warms my heart because that was, you know, that's a dream of every girl, and she got to achieve that. She had a 2-year-old little boy, and she was pregnant with her second baby.
Mm.
And she was a social worker. She was working with the youth of our community between the ages of 13 and 17, and girls that had been through the foster care. And this was kind of like the end of the rope for them. And she was a teacher within that program, the program for the girls to learn how to read, a literacy program
Mm.
called New Directions. And
Mhm.
so her job was to be with these girls, help them to be good citizens in the community, learn how to read, and just kind of, build them up again from their backgrounds that they had experienced. So she was very patient, kind, and in the perfect spot for a job because she just was just so kind, soft spoken, and understanding, and not a hyper type person where she would get stressed with this kind of thing. And she was just that was her calling.
Yeah, it was her
Yeah,
calling. Yeah, and she loved children, I see. And you mentioned that she was pregnant at the time when she got in a car accident?
she was.
Mm.
The day of the car accident was December 20th, 2011.
So it's before Christmas even.
Yes, I buried my daughter 3 days before Christmas.
Mm.
So she was out in the community with her coworker that day. The coworker was the driver, and Andrea was the passenger in the front seat. And they had been out with a couple of girls in the community, and they were quite happy because they had raised money. These girls had raised money, and they were going to adopt a child. And so they were quite proud of the fact that these girls were, being successful and learning what giving is all about, and they were doing their job quite well. And they were very happy. They had made a phone call to the head office to tell them, look what we've done. These girls are doing amazing. They were on their way back to the group home where she worked, about 2 blocks away.
Mm-hmm.
They were stopped, waiting at a light to turn left. Sorry, it wasn't a light. They were stopped at a street on a highway, waiting to turn left. And a transport truck driver hit them from behind. He was texting and driving and having an argument with his girlfriend. He hit them, pushed them into the oncoming traffic, where they were hit yet again by another vehicle and T-boned. And both the driver, Andrea's co-worker, and my daughter, Andrea, were killed instantly. That's the
I'm
day
so
that
sorry.
my life was shattered into a million pieces. I did
Yeah.
not want to breathe. I did not want to live. I wanted to be wherever she was.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for your loss. Oh, just you sharing me, and I'm like all covered in shivers now. It's very, very painful. I cannot imagine. It's So did you say the baby survived, or I just didn't
No,
understand that?
she was
Oh,
3 months pregnant. She was very
oh,
excited
mm-hmm.
to have a little sibling for her son,
Yeah.
Tristan. And my birthday is December 28th, and I was actually supposed to go and see the ultrasound with her. That
Mm.
didn't happen.
No, because you had a booking, I guess. Yeah. I'm so sorry for your loss. It's very painful because that was my you so you will always remember that vividly, right? That moment right after that.
Yes, 13 years later, and I have a flicker of anger. It's like a flicker, like a spark, and at any given time, a trigger can happen and ignite that fire of anger in me, and then it just takes me down that dark hole where sometimes it's still very difficult to get up. And the anxiety starts, and the tears, and the body just becomes overwhelmed with the trauma all once again. And but the good thing is, grief is a teacher. And grief, people like to say, oh, time heals. Time does not heal.
Mm.
Time is a teacher. Time teaches us how to live with grief. Time teaches us, and we learn coping skills on how to pull back and have the power within, not to let grief have the power. You have the power, and the power is within. And I
Yeah.
have more power within me than I ever thought I had.
Yes, yeah. So what helped you to survive those very early days when grief like it was so raw, so unbearable?
In
And
the
what
early
helps you?
days, the
Yeah. Mhm.
first few months, I existed like a robot. I just kind of did what I had to do, what life expected me to do. But in the first, my husband took a month off work, and at that time, the first month, I was highly medicated, and I basically he was my caregiver. I just cried endlessly, crashed in bed, and he had to be my caregiver and say, when's the last time you showered? I don't know.
Yeah.
What do I care about a shower?
Yeah.
When's the last time you ate? When's the last time you drank? When's the last time you brushed your teeth, right? All those normal activities of daily living that a person just takes for granted and we do automatically was not part of my existence. It was non-existent because my body was so wrapped up in the emotional trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And grief is a whole body experience, right? It has effect on us cognitively, emotionally, physically, socially, and in every way. And in that first month, I was very much emotionally not here. I could
Mm-hmm.
hear people, but it was like I existed outside of my body. And then when he went back to work, it was pretty much the same thing. And I learned when he would ask me, he'd come home for lunch, and so did you eat? And so then I learned gradually to take the tiny, tiny little steps of doing things like having water, eating, showering, and those tiny little baby steps. I would write it down on my agenda to remind me I need to shower
Yeah.
because there's no memory, there's no cognitive activity.
Yeah.
And so when I did those things, it helps to Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the small, tiny, achievable goals that we set that we accomplish and we are grateful for and we celebrate without guilt. And it got to the point after a while, he'd come home from work and I'd say, look what I did today. I made a phone call and I walked, and every little thing that I did was celebrated. And that is when you do those things, it moves you from the dark moment into the light of life again. And that's how you work towards reclaiming hope into your life.
Yeah. It's so important to have such a loving support around you, right? Like your
Hmm.
husband, and I'm sure your other part of your other members of your family and community. Was there anything that did something special for you that made you feel a little lighter, or
I would say it
besides
was mainly my husband
your
in
husband?
those early months,
Hmm.
because her sister, I could, I still deal with, try not to make myself regret, but I was not there for her. I was
No.
not there for my husband. I was not there for any other family member. I couldn't be there for myself, let alone anyone else. So everybody kind of went in their own direction and dealt with their own grief in the best way that they could. So I would say the only support that I had at the time was my husband.
Hmm.
And I didn't answer the phone for 6 months.
Yeah.
People would phone and want to talk to me, and I just isolated myself
Yeah.
because I didn't want to explain or talk, or I just became totally withdrawn and isolated.
Yeah.
So if there were friends calling, it didn't make any difference anyway. So I
Mm. Oh, I see.
completely leaned onto my husband. And then later on, about, 5, 6 months later, I have a daughter in Saskatchewan, and she became a lifeline for me. I would phone her and I'd be screaming and crying, and she would be just a good listener, and she would, hear me through all of my grief and the ugliness, and I could rely on her at any time of day, and that became a good support as well. And then I joined a support group, which was, it's important to be around like-minded people, so I didn't have Zoom in those days. And so I would go weekly to this support group with bereaved moms, and that was a support because you could share stories and everybody understood one another, and everybody was there to embrace one
Yeah.
another. And
Yeah.
then I had a counselor. I had the same counselor for 9 years.
Nice. That's good. It's good that you had a counselor, that you had connection with her right away, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
Yeah, when I lost my brother to suicide 5 years ago, yeah, almost six now. It was, I just understand it's very challenging. Yeah, I had to go through counseling and do all kinds of other work to help me as well. So, what I know, grief does not, as we mentioned already, grief does not ever end. You just learn to how to live with it, right? So, what still helps you today?
For
But
me personally, what helps me is walking. Walking became a big tool for me to, I would go for my walk by myself, go in a quieter area, not a residential area, and I could, as I'm walking briskly, I could scream, cry, yell, talk to God, argue with God, talk to Andrea, release all of those emotions, release all of the pain. And then after 45 minutes, when I come home, I did that for years and years and years, and I still do it now.
mhm,
And it's therapeutic because
yes,
the exercise is good. It helps your body physically. It helps to acknowledge all the grief, and I'm ready to just take on the next step of what I have to do in life. That's been
mhm,
big for me. And that's actually how my book came about, because about 9 years into my grief, I came home and said to my husband, "That's it. I'm going to write a book."
mhm.
And that's how I started
Yeah,
writing my book at
yeah,
9.
because I think when we go out in nature for walks and stuff, I think we really get inspired by, yeah, just by walking and by being surrounded by nature, because we kind of enveloped on that in that beauty around us and peace, I guess. I remember the first months also for me when I would make myself go out and for a walk. I'm like even looking in the clouds, like, and clouds would be like in
For
some
sure.
form, shape, yeah, and you're looking and looking for some sign, for
Sure.
something.
I think it's important to, it's grounding.
Hmm.
And I think it's important to use all of our senses. You go
Hmm.
outside and, it's summertime and people are cutting the grass, so you can smell the grass and
Hmm.
connect with nature. You hear the birds chirping, and, I often stop and try to figure out what bird is that? What sound is that? And
Hmm.
it brings
Yeah.
me into life. It keeps
Hmm.
me connected with life and grounded. And
Yeah.
like you say, looking at the beautiful blue sky and all the different clouds, and you encounter kids and laughter and just
Yeah.
all of it. You need
Yeah.
to use all of your senses. Oftentimes when I'm camping, I love to just sit on the beach and I put my feet in the water and the sand, and I again, smell the air and listen to the waves and talk to Andrea and say, "This is for you, Andrea. I'm doing this for you. Can you
Hmm.
smell?" And I talk to her all the time.
That's good. Yeah. So you feel her presence all over you, I guess. So I know it's really crushing for the whole family. So do you know how your husband, I guess, also went through this? Like, just
Uh,
in your
I
daughter?
think he, in the early, season of grief, months to the first year, I think he was really afraid of losing me. I think he was afraid that, I'm sorry, I think he was
Yeah.
afraid that I wouldn't make it.
Yes. Mhm.
He was afraid
Yeah.
that I was
Yeah. You
not
have a
going
tissue
to
there
make
for
it.
you? Yeah. Hmm.
And, that bothers me. But you I had no, I mean, nothing could prepare me for what I had to deal with, right? So I think he
Yes.
was afraid of losing me. He was my caregiver. Like I said, he looked after me. And
Yes.
I don't think he really, in the early months, I don't think he really grieved himself. When he went back to work, he told me, we talked about it after many times, and for him it was a distraction. Yes, he had to work. It was a distraction. It could take him to a place where he could focus on other things, and then when he came home, he would be that much stronger to deal with me.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
mean, I maybe in his quiet moments he did. And then as time progressed, we talked about it more and more. And as I was able to step more back into life, We talked about it, and we talk about her together all the time. He always does everything to honor her. We have dish like there's representation of her everywhere in this house, and it may be wine glasses that she encouraged me to buy, and so when he sets the table for dinner, he'll put those wine glasses out
Mm.
just without saying anything.
Nice.
Brings
Hmm.
her into our life all the time. Or we sit in the living room and we light candles and we look at her pictures and we talk
Hmm.
about her.
Yeah.
And he was able to, I think, as I progressively connected with life and he realized that maybe she is going to make it, that he was able to then start grieving himself.
Yes. It's wonderful. You have such a wonderful husband. My blessings to you all. It's beautiful how he was your anchor, to support you that time. He was that stronger person. And
Oh, absolutely.
so, how did your relationship with grief kind of evolved over these years now? Like, has your understanding of grief changed over years? Like, for example, what did you believe at the beginning, and before even you it hit you, I guess. And now, what do you know about it now? You know more about it now, of course, but
Yeah.
how did it
Well,
change for you?
as I said, there's nothing that could prepare me for
Hmm.
losing Andrea. I was a nurse for 37 years, and I dealt with most of my time was, well, worked in hospitals, nursing homes, community nursing, but in the hospitals for quite some time. And so I encountered death many times,
Hmm.
supporting family members, holding the hands of people as they passed on. But the thing is, at the end of the day, when you go home, you're affected and it's bothersome, and you just say, thank God that's not me.
Yeah.
And so that's about the preparation you get for it there, as
Mm.
well as whatever knowledge. But nothing could prepare me for
Yes, of
losing
course.
Andrea. I've lost my mother. She was just turned 60 and far too young to go. And I was, at that time, a single mother with two girls. So it was a grief that um, probably, like society says now, you deal with it for a period of time and then you have to get on because you've got to work and you've got all these obligations. And I think I grieved, but a lot of times I took grief and I just put it put it in a little box and put it on the
Yes.
shelf and said, okay, that's for later, right?
Hmm. Isn't it
And
true for many families here? I find, especially in Western culture, it's very, very so much like that.
the society is grief illiterate.
Yeah.
Like, so,
Yeah.
that was my knowledge before, prior to
Hmm.
Andrea.
Yeah.
And of course, when it happened, I did not think that my life could be so devastated. I did not think
Hmm.
that I
No.
could be so empty and so naked to the world.
Hmm.
And the emotions are, the confusion. And I had no one to tell me, you know, I mean, basically, you're okay, you're going to be fine, whatever, right? But what I've learned through the years is that, like I said, grief is a whole body experience. And yes, I'm going to be exhausted from the grieving. And yes, I'm going to get headaches. And people that say are diabetic can have high blood pressure or heart disease, and you're grieving and you have these medications to take. That's going to get neglected, so your health can get worse.
Hmm.
I've just learned so much about grief, and the
Mm.
education, of course, has helped to bring me through and to realize that I wasn't going crazy. I thought I was losing my mind. I
Yes.
thought I
Hmm.
would never get my control of my mind back again. As time went on, you realize that grief is never going away. It is it is with us forever. As
Yeah.
much as I love my daughter, that is what I will grieve. That's how much I will grieve. So
Yes.
it will never end. But it's not linear. Some
Hmm.
people like to think that, there are stages. There are no stages because in one day I can go through all of those stages that are, said about grief. And a year from now, I could go through them again. Like it's not something you achieve. It's a road that you walk forever, and you have to have space for that grief, and you have to allow it to. You have to give space its time because it lives in every fiber of my body.
Yeah.
So when I give grief the space and the time, I say, okay, I have control now. The love that I have for Andrea takes over, and that's what I'm going to move forward with.
Mhm.
So, I've learned that in my heart, grief and love cohabitate.
Yes, because love never actually ends, and grief never ends too. And those phases, as you mentioned, they don't have to go even in order, right? Today you feel like it can be out of like order at all or completely. And as you said, they come in wave and in unexpected times. And I'm so glad to hear that you say that you learned so much and you're sharing that, with your knowledge and your experience with others. But also, you learn to take space, give space to yourself, and be compassionate with yourself first of all, right? and
Yes.
um and it's not, yeah, so yeah, me too. Like when I was going through my grieving too, I was feeling something is wrong with me because people expected me to be over it over like in 5 weeks or 3 months, like they just
Right.
expect it. Yeah, it's just not, it doesn't work that way. So we, as you said, illiterate, we need to really, that's why we want to bring more awareness about and share more what is grief. And so there's so many misconceptions, yeah, around. And what do you think the main, like, or some of the misconceptions, I guess, of people having about mother's grief, like especially long term, right? Because I know several mothers who lost their children, like yourself, and it's just,
I
I,
think people, it's the elephant in the room, and people don't want to talk about it because they're afraid they're going to make you cry.
mhm.
And that is, okay, that may be true, but I cry all the time. You are not going to make me cry. You are not going to make this worse. If you talk to me about it and you say her name, then that's music to my soul, right?
Yes,
So
it's
people are
healing, right?
afraid. It's healing, yes. So
Mhm.
people are afraid to talk because they're afraid they will make you cry, and then they don't know what to say. I didn't know what to say,
Mhm.
right? I was in a position where I was nursing, and all I could say was, I am so sorry. My heart is with you,
Mhm.
right? That's okay to say, right? But then people say the platitudes of, well, she's in a better place right now. Excuse me, she's not in a better place.
Mhm.
The
Yeah,
place where she needs to be right now is right here beside me, enjoying
exactly.
life with me.
Yes, and having baby,
So
right? That was supposed to
people,
be born.
they either don't want to talk about it, they don't know what to say, and so they stuff it away and they just don't deal with it.
Mhm. But how would you, like, from knowing from now, like when we know what grief is, what would you say is best way for them to do? Like how, like people who have no idea, because we were at in that place too when we didn't know
Yes,
what to say,
yeah.
what to do, right?
And if you don't know what to say, then you're best off to just be a good listener,
Yes.
just a good listener and acknowledge their pain, right? Just say, it's okay. It's okay. Not I understand because you don't, but
Mm-mm,
it's
no.
okay. Shed those tears. And
Yeah.
then if you want to do something to help people, actions are better than words. You come to the house and say, I'm going to cut your grass.
Yes.
I'm going to take your dog for a walk. Would,
Yes.
not
Hmm.
would you like, because they can't make decisions.
No,
They,
no,
they can't reach out and pick up the phone and say, can you walk my dog today? Because that is far from
no.
reality,
Or can you cook
their
for me,
reality.
right? Or let's go for a walk. They should come and say, I'm here for you. If you want me, I can just sit next to you and
I brought
I give you,
I brought you a coffee. If you want it, that's fine.
yes,
It's right there, but I'm here for you.
yes,
And
yeah,
then you just sit there and listen and bring food. My
yes.
freezer was filled with food. I had no idea who brought it, but it helped to give me nutrition,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
Actions. I
And
would
also not
say
to feel guilty
action.
that your husband also he's there to have to be fed, right? And other like in yourself too, right?
Well,
So
the
yeah,
family, yes, of
family,
course.
yeah.
Yes.
And plus, like I think, like I was talking on Monday with one of my friend who lost her children to miscarriages, several of them, and she says, just presence, just being there. And I'm thinking, yeah, if we're just kind and compassionate enough to be, just show up and be present and just give that space to,
Absolutely. Be
yeah,
present. Be present.
yeah.
Right?
And in whatever little actions, whatever gestures you can do, all of them appreciate it. You don't have to ask permission to bring me a jar of soup, just bring it.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or come in the house, and if you're sitting with them and you happen to notice that the kitchen is a bit
Mm.
untidy, hey, I'm going to go do your dishes for you. You
Yes.
sit there and you do what you have to do. I'll do
Exactly.
your
Yeah.
dishes for you,
Hmm. That's
right?
true. That's what it is. Yeah, I really appreciate that. There are some people who understand and they do those things, and then, but then also I don't know if they have some term like because sometimes I don't know. Like for example, there was a family who lost their mother, and I just dropped the soup like at the door and just kind of text it. It's there kind of thing. Some
Yes,
people are like as yourself, you don't want to open the door, you don't want to talk to anybody, you don't want to call. But if people left something at the door and said, "Okay, here it is," just pick it up. If yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Were there any like unexplainable, I don't know, any dream or signs when you felt Andrea's presence or her guidance in your life? I don't, after she
Wow,
passed.
that's interesting that you asked me that because I really don't care what anyone else thinks, but I mean,
Yeah, but I did experience that, so
my
that's why I'm asking you.
husband and I know. So, um, she came to me in, she came to me. It wasn't a dream. I was not sleeping.
Yes. Yeah, my brother came to me. I believe you, 100%. He came to me, and people don't believe me because I'm also part of Christian
And
community.
you know what? That doesn't matter because
Yes,
to this day, 13 years later, it still brings me peace. So
yes,
if it still brings me peace, then I will hang on to it.
yes.
So I was deep in the throes of grief. I was crying. I was in bed. I think it might have been, I can't remember the exact day. I think it might have been the day of the funeral, and I just came home, went to bed. And I was crying endlessly, almost suffocating with tears, not sleeping. So it was not a dream.
Hmm.
And I'm not crazy. I know that now. I was just a
Exactly.
grieving
I
mother.
believe you,
And I
100%.
was in the bedroom under the duvet crying, um, and it was dark. And all of a sudden, just like finger snap, I stopped crying. Just like that. I mean, you just don't do that in grief.
No. Hmm.
So then I pulled back the duvet, took a breath, and thought, what's going on? And I looked up, and there in the room was Andrea holding the hand of a little girl about 3 years old. I know that I have a granddaughter in heaven. She
Hmm.
came to tell me that. She was standing there. I couldn't really see her face. I couldn't really see the face of the little girl, but I knew that her her hair was blonde, dirty blonde, curls blowing in the wind. The little girl had darker hair because her husband was from Trinidad. So the little girl had darker hair, and they were just standing there, and the wind was blowing. It was a breeze, just kind of gently blowing their hair.
Hmm.
I remember every single detail 13 years later. That's
Hmm.
why I know for sure she came to me. And so she didn't say anything. It was just them standing there. She had a white dress on and it was flowing in the breeze. The little girl had a little white dress on, flowing in the breeze. And talking about the sky, I'm telling you, the sky was the bluest of blue that you have never seen in your earthly life. I
Hmm.
could never see a sky as blue as I saw that day.
Yeah.
Not a cloud, blue beyond description.
Hmm.
And the grass, it was a very simple picture. And the grass, we were standing there in the grass, and the grass, the blades of grass, I could see the individual blades of grass. It was kind of long,
Hmm.
and it was swaying in the breeze.
Yeah.
And they were standing there, and it was the green again, a
Hmm.
green that you could not describe. You could never find a word for
Hmm.
it. And that was it. And I stared and I looked and I wasn't crying. And then they were gone.
Hmm. And then it gave you peace, you said.
I
So
had
how
peace.
did you go? How did you go through that day? Did you have peace for the rest of the day or
I
no?
think I believe that I stayed in bed And I don't remember too much
Yeah.
after. I think
Yeah.
I didn't cry for quite some time. And then I think people called me out and it was time to eat.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was my moment where she came to me, and I believe
Yeah.
that she came to me that day.
But it gave you a sense of peace that she's doing okay, right? She's doing all right.
She's
Yeah.
in
And
heaven,
she introduced you to your
and she
granddaughter.
came and showed me that I have a granddaughter. And I
Granddaughter,
always
yeah.
say that I have a granddaughter in heaven.
Yeah, yeah, nice, beautiful. It's such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing. I know it's very hard to share those things, and that's, what helped me to be more brave about those things. Because me too, when I would share with my group of people, they would not understand me. They would think
No.
I'm whatever, right? And then making up whatever, or feeling what I don't know. They just have their own understanding about it. But I came across one lady. Somebody told me her name is Laura Lynn Jackson, and she lives in New York, but she wrote two books about this. One, I believe people have gifts, and she definitely has gift. Also, she was scientifically, I guess, like they did some
Mhm.
research on her, and they
Yes.
did see that she has some abnormal, whatever, like some frequencies, whatever, in her brain. So she does have a gift of psychic medium,
Hmm.
and she wrote two books. The first book is called "The Light Between Us," and she talks about her journey, how she came to that, how she explored her gift because she was scared of it too. She's like, because it's not normal, right, in this life. And the second book is called Signs, and that Signs was my first book I read, although it's second book for her. And she explains about those things. She does like really talk about different ways of signs, how we can still communicate and stay connected with our loved ones, because our connection does not end when they pass away. We still have ways to connect with them. That's why I have so many signs that I collect and I know about, and I started journaling about them too. So yeah. So what you already mentioned earlier, that you have learned about yourself, that how much strength you have in you, or in that regard. So going through this journey, like, yeah, things that you have not maybe known about yourself before Andrea passed. What was that?
That I didn't know about myself.
Yes.
I would say the biggest thing that I have learned about myself that I didn't know before is the fact that I have the strength and the power within me to conquer anything in life. And I
Yes.
did not have that knowledge before.
Mm, no. Yeah. And that's yeah. So what is, yeah, I do know you wrote a memoir, your beautiful book. You have it with you?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So what was that moment? You already said you came from work and you told the husband, well, I'm writing my book, right? So do you remember that moment? So
Yes,
can you
I
share,
do.
like,
And
yeah.
my next question to him was, uh, how do I do it? Because I had no idea.
Yeah.
I was a nurse for 37 years, and most of like my knowledge was just medical. In those days, I'm going to age myself, but in those days, all of our documentation was handwritten.
Yeah.
All of our progress notes, everything about the patients, it was all handwritten. Computers came into like a program for us to use. That was more in the latter years. And by then I, had nursed for 30 years and everybody was complaining, we've done it this way all the time. Why do we have. Anyway, so I knew nothing about computers really. And so he said, well, you sit down and you pull up Word and you start typing. So that I did. And again, he was my manager because he would come home at lunch and I'd be like, okay, I'm so frustrated. Computers are frustrating and whatever. I lost this, or did you save it? No. Did I save it? No. Anyway, he taught me everything to know.
That's
And
good.
I just, stuck with it daily. He showed me things that I didn't know. And a year and a half into it, I mean, I took months off through the summer where, I wanted to partake of life. And, but basically, it was a daily thing. And it was me reaching down into the depths of my soul to describe all of the pain and emotion and everything that I had felt so that it could be relatable to someone that was reading it.
Yes. Did you say it talks about, your book is about your grieving journey throughout the 9 years of your life, right? From
Yes.
the day one.
It's it's called the Road of Love and Hope, and I
Yeah,
wanted.
can you show it to us, please, if it's okay with you?
No, I don't know. It never comes up good on here. Oh,
Oh,
okay.
it does. Yeah, the road. Yeah, no, it's beautiful. The road of love and hope. Yes.
Yes. And so my vision for the cover, well, actually, the whole framework was grief is a road, right? Grief is a road that we're on, and it's ugly and it's messy. We don't know where we're going, we don't have a destination. And so I wanted the cover to be, I'm walking on this path and I'm walking over all of these rocks, and it's like the worst. It's not a nice hike. It's just, this is where I'm going. And ahead, there's all the dark clouds of grief, but the rays of sunshine are breaking through those clouds. So that's where
Yeah.
I didn't know it, but I wanted the message to be that there is hope out there and the sun will always shine. I always say that now. Even now, I use weather. Weather's very connectable to grief, right?
Yes.
You have
Yes.
rainy days, and then you just have to know that tomorrow is going to be better because the sun's going to shine.
Yes.
So yeah, that's me walking on the road, and then the framework of the book is the same thing. Like the first chapter is the big boulder. The big boulder, it happens. It's right there in front of you. You can't go to the left and get around it. You can't go to the right. It's there. How do I deal with it? And that's the day of Andrea's loss. And then as the book progresses, it's pathway of perseverance. Every chapter is kind of related to a road, but this road of grief. And then at the end of each chapter, I have a just for today, which is a little thought just for today. You've read this chapter and it's about honoring, so now just for today, I will. And that was my
Yeah.
my
What is
idea.
it? You will like for every day? It's like a little prompt, or what is it?
For instance, one would be,
So after each chapter,
it's,
you put little prompts. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see. Yeah. What did you? What can you
so
read one of
this
those?
one says, just for today, I will smile with no guilt, no matter how much I hurt. Maybe if I smile just once, my heart will soften and I will begin to heal. I will be gentle with myself as I allow life to enter again. And then I put a little quote. If you cannot hold me in your arms, then hold my memory in high regard. And if I cannot be in your life, then at least let me live in your heart. And that's by Renata Suzuki. So
Mm,
every chapter has one of those.
beautiful. It's
And I
beautiful.
opened the book, of course, with a dedication to Andrea, and the ending was dedicated by a letter that she wrote me when she was 13,
Oh,
about how much she
beautiful.
loves me and how great
Yeah.
a mother I am. And so the whole
Yeah.
book is her.
Did you place like a photograph of that letter, or you typed it?
No, I typed. I should
Mm-hmm.
have, but I typed the letter in, and it's to Mummy. Sometimes when I am too depressed or drowning in self doubt, I know I can call your name and you will pull me out. You taught me that I'm worth more than what I always thought. You gave me the strength and confidence so long I had fought. You showed me that I am beautiful from the outside and in. You proved that I'm not second best time and time again. One day I will return it to you, all that you have given me. I don't know in what time or form, but I promise you will soon see. For rich or for poor, in sickness and in health, through all the thick and thin, I can always trust and count on you, and I am so proud to say you are my mummy. Love always and forever, Andrea.
Oh, it's 13. Such a beautiful and
She
deep,
was about 13, 12.
yeah, and wise. So much wisdom, so much depth
She was a
in
very
her.
clever girl, very clever.
Yeah, so much depth in her. I'm really impressed and beautiful. Thank you so much for reading and for sharing that with us. It's beautiful. I have no words. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's such a nice
I'm
that
pretty proud
you.
of her.
Yeah.
I brag about her every day. You know, I do
Yes.
my book
Yeah.
signings, and
Yes. Good.
I
Yeah.
published her book. She wrote a book in grade 10, a
Yes.
children's book, and that was the project. You have to write a children's book in her English class. And
Hmm.
so I found it and had it published for her,
Hmm.
and it's called Spooky Meets a Friend.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
And she did all of the illustrations.
Really. Oh wow.
There's Spooky
Oh
looking out the window, and it's about a little black cat that learns to share.
yeah. Nice. So you published her beautiful children's book that she created in high school. You say.
Yes.
So and how do you feel it brings her voice into the world? Like you brought her voice into the world by not only sharing her letter in your memoir, but also by creating her own children's book. And the author's name is hers, right?
Oh, yes, it's by
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Andrea Watkins before she got married.
yeah.
And
Nice.
that's her signature, like she wrote it, her signature on the bottom, written by Andrea Watkins.
Mm,
And then the whole, her story is on the back.
mm. And then her photograph, yeah, nice.
Her voice is all over Canada and somewhere in the States.
Yes.
And it's been donated to a lot of the nursery preschools in
Hmm.
the area here.
Hmm.
It's all over. She's
Yes,
everywhere.
because so what kind of meaning does it give to you when you know that Andre's book is reaching other children and families? Like, yeah.
She's still here. She's still doing her work in the world. She was helping big girls. Now she's helping little children,
Hmm.
and she's she's still here. That's her legacy. She's
Yeah.
still helping.
Yeah. So, yeah. And do you feel like the messages that she's sending out to the world, right? That's her story carries to the world today, is actually that she's still connected, I guess, with, as you said, her calling, how, being with children and teaching them. She is now teaching about sharing through this story of a cat, right? And her
Yes,
voice is alive today, and in her book is living in every home and
and
in
her
every family.
legacy for kindness and love for children lives on.
Yeah, lives on. Yeah. So yeah, not beautiful. So what kind of, if you did receive any, have you received any messages, or maybe when you did your book signing events, like did you have any moments that deeply touched you? Like maybe people shared with you about
Uh,
the.
Lots of people, share their story about their losses. Some people just want to share their story about their loss, and then they don't buy the book, but they've talked about it.
Mm,
So that is
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
One of the biggest memory I have, I think this was last spring. A gentleman came up to the table where I had my books, and his arms were full. He'd been shopping at Chapters. He said, "Can I put my books down?" I said, "Sure, put them on the table." And then he picked up my book and he said, "Did you write this?" I said, "Yes, I did. But I have a big poster size picture of Andrea." And he said, I said, "I wrote it." My daughter, told him the story. And he said, "Is that her there?" I said, "Yes." Anyway, he talked to me a little bit, and then he looked at Spooky Meets a Friend, and he looked at the book, and he read the back of the book, and he looked at me and he had tears in his eyes. He said, "Can I buy it?" "Absolutely, you can buy
Hmm.
it." So he picked up the rest of the books on his table, took Andrea's book, and walked away with tears in his eyes. So that
Mm,
day, I always used to say when I was writing my book, if I can help just one person, then I've achieved my goal. That
yes.
day, there's been many other people, but that particular day was my person for the day. That he
Nice.
walked out that store with my book, and hopefully, in some way, the words in my book can help him in whatever loss that he's dealing with.
Yes. Yes, that's beautiful. Yeah, I do see your storytelling, like sharing your story and sharing Andrea's book is actually helping so many people. Like you have no idea, not only one, but so many. And with you sharing your story today on our podcast is also gonna help so many, so many. So would you
Hope
say
so.
writing and sharing your story and Andrea's story is really like to play some role in your healing? Yeah, we keep. I guess our healing continues when we are sharing, right?
Absolutely. Helping is healing, right? I mean, that man that day walked out with a book that was hopefully going to help him, but he healed me
Mm-hmm.
because he helped my purpose, my new purpose and my new mission. So he helped me. So helping is healing for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yes. What does hope look like after loss?
Loss, when you first experience it, you're hopeless. You
Mm-hmm.
feel like your life is hopeless. There is no hope for the next minute. There's no hope for tomorrow, the next minute, or tomorrow, right? There's no hope because you're completely consumed in the loss and the pain and what that does to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that as time moves us on and we make steps, that we are cultivating hope. I've come up with a little framework of my own, and it's called the three pillars of hope. And the first one is acknowledgement, the second one is action, and the third one is appreciation. The first one is acknowledgement, how you work towards hope, how you cultivate hope. The first one is acknowledgement. You need to acknowledge what happened. And by acknowledging the loss through the tears, acknowledging the loss through all of the emotions, the anger, the fears, the anxiety, the depression, you're acknowledging the loss and you're saying, yes, that person did exist, that person did. You're making the world realize, and yourself, and working towards acceptance. Acknowledgement doesn't, the tears and the crying, but also acknowledgement can be in many ways. I acknowledge her here talking about her. Journaling, you can acknowledge by many things.
Yes.
Journaling, reading books, educating yourself, helping yourself, acknowledging the pain, acknowledging it's actually the hard work of grief
Mm-hmm.
that we
Yeah.
talked about, that it needs to be dealt with. It can't be put
Mm-hmm.
in a little package and put on a shelf and left alone. It needs to be dealt with, every single emotion. And by doing that, when you do that, you're making little small steps that I talked about earlier. You set small, tiny, achievable goals, those tiny actions that move you from the dark moment into the light of life. If it means you've stepped down the stairs and opened the door and looked at the sun for the day, that's a small action. And the next time, maybe you'll go for a walk, or having just a cup of tea, putting your hands around the cup and feeling the heat, grounding yourself. That's a tiny action to move yourself forward. And those actions at first are small, tiny, achievable ones, and then you build on those. And
Yeah.
eventually you're working towards hope by doing that. And then appreciation comes in, because when you step outside, you look at the sky and you're appreciating life again,
Mm-hmm.
or your child that's beside you, you read them a story, you're appreciating life again. You find the strength to read a story to them. Little things, and then when we have gratification in our life, hope is there. Yesterday's gone. Today is the only little piece of time that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow's not here.
Yeah.
So what we do with today is what defines our success for the
Mm-hmm.
day. So acknowledgement, actions, and appreciation help to cultivate hope.
That's beautiful. That's the beautiful message. Maybe if there is anything else you would like to, you would tell to another mother who is maybe freshly grieving the loss of their child or today.
I would say feel the feels.
Mm.
You need to cry. You need to shed those tears. Those tears are love with nowhere to go. And don't ever feel guilty for crying, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. Feel those feelings, feel those emotions, and know that you are not going crazy. that it will get better in time, that the piercing pain that is existing right now will soften. That won't make any difference to a person who's suffering, but to know that it's okay to shed those tears and not feel guilty,
Yeah.
right?
So
And take
given
the
permission,
time.
they're given permission to themselves. Yeah.
Give yourself permission to shed those tears. Give yourself permission to stay in bed. If you have to stay in bed and you don't feel like reaching out to the world, you do it. But, the small steps are when you get out of bed and you have a drink of water, that's what you need to do. You get out of bed, maybe later on have a bowl of soup, but you need to feel and acknowledge those tears and not ever feel guilty about it. And just know that grief, there's no timeline.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about when you feel better. There's no timeline for grief. Don't let anybody tell you that there is a timeline. You do, and grief is unique. Grief is as unique as your fingerprint. So how I'm reacting is different than how you're going to react, and everybody's relationship with that person is different. So it's unique. So it's unique to you, and you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much, Linda. From the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate for sharing Andrea with us today, for sharing your story with us today, for giving your encouragement and sending your powerful messages to the world through your book and through speaking up and speaking to people who just come to, or just walk by when you're doing your book signing. And for allowing us into your story, into your grief, and into your healing and your love. So what you're creating is just from an unimaginable loss is something deeply, deeply meaningful. And you are a really strong woman, and you have very strong anchor, like your husband.
Yes.
And your memoir and your Andrea's children's book and the way you continue speaking her name is it's such a powerful reminder of love, that love doesn't never end,
Love
just
is
never end.
eternal.
It's eternal, yeah. And it just finds all the new ways to show up, right? And as you said, as Andrea said to you in your vision when she came to you, you're gonna no, not only that. I think it was in your letter when she says you will know, yeah.
Yes, and when
You will,
she said, "I will pay you back. I don't know when, but I
yeah,
will, and you will know."
yeah, yeah. So
I
it's
think
just
I think she's by saying that she's with me now.
yes.
She's with me
Exactly.
all the time.
She's saying you will always know I'm here. You'll always know my love is always with you, and I will always, yeah, you will always be loved. And
No matter
so
how
you,
you're hurting, I'm always there, and I love you.
yes, that's exactly what it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you've given comfort and courage and connection to so many, especially to other grieving parents, right? Because you've been, I'm sure you just all over helping everybody around you in your life. And through your voice today, I know Andrea's spirit has reached all of us. Like it's been reaching so many people. And so thank you so much for being here.
Thank
And it's been an
you.
honor to hold space for your story and to have you on my podcast. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Dana. I really appreciate you giving me your time, giving me the opportunity to I talk about what I call my love story, because it is my love story. It's my
Yes.
love story between Andrea and I. And I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Blessings to you. Talk to you soon.